We are here with Dave Butchko, and he's with the PR department at Lucid. Behind us, we have the beautiful new Lucid Gravity SUV, highly anticipated. Dave, thank you so much for taking a few minutes.
My pleasure.
So tell us about the Gravity and kind of like what the response has been now that we're so close to seeing these things on the road at scale.
Right.
What's kind of the path forward here for Lucid?
Well, after we set some pretty impressive benchmarks for sedans, electric sedans with the Lucid Air sedan in terms of potential for range and that combination of range, efficiency, and performance with a car that, you know, for here in Canada is rated at over 800 kilometers of range, in the US over 500 miles, and yet still like 819 horsepower. So you're doing 0 to 60 miles an hour or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in around about 3 seconds. Wow. In the world's most, the longest range electric vehicle. Think about that, 3 seconds, 0 to 60, and 500 miles or 800 kilometers of range. So we also, because our electric motors are incredibly small and compact, small enough that our electric motor and inverter will actually fit inside a carry-on suitcase. Weigh about 74 kilos, about 164 pounds. And so our engineers and designers working together really to sort of engineer and design around those small components to maximize the amount of space inside the car for people and stuff, whether it's in the trunk or up front in the front, where you've got about 280 liters, or for folks in the US, 10 cubic feet. And so all that stuff in a sedan, and then taking all of those lessons and applying it to a 3-row full-size SUV. So what we have now here with Lucid Gravity is a vehicle that has not just 3 rows and seating for 7, but 3 rows and seating for 7 adults. Yeah. And not just seating for 7 adults, but for 7 adults and their stuff. Like you could, 7 adults, seven suitcases, you know, a weekend's worth of luggage will fit inside this vehicle. Yeah, which is pretty amazing. Yeah,
and the key to that seems to be having the big front trunks. I mean, whether it's the Air or the Gravity, they're just massive.
Well, they're, again, maximizing the amount of space inside the vehicle. And what's fun is you've probably already keyed on this, is with the Gravity being a taller vehicle, the decision was made very early to have this cutout in the hood, so that, you know, we lower the liftover points. So when you load stuff inside the front, you're not having to lift up and over and in.
Because let's face it, this is almost similar to some car's trunk, really, like load height. Yeah.
Well, exactly right. And when you get around the back, you'll see that the load height going into the back part of the vehicle is also very low. So that was really important. And then, of course, with that low cutout, the designers were sort of looking at it, that space and thinking, well, gosh, I wonder what other fun things we could do with that space. And of course, that led to the development of what we call our accessory front seat.
Okay.
So, you know,
It's actually pretty comfortable. I'll sit in it. I'll sit in it. Yeah, you know what?
It's comfortable. You've got a cup holder right there, which is nice and handy.
Right here. It's pretty cool. I got to admit. So we
got
a little shade over top here.
Yeah, shade or protection from the elements on a snowy day like today here in Toronto.
Totally.
And you know, and so we have created a new pastime. You've heard of tailgating. Well, we now introduce you to front gating.
Front gating. I love it.
Front gating, absolutely. Yeah.
I love it. And this frunk is this a power frunk here?
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. So you have power opening and closing for the front, which makes it really easy.
Amazing. And I notice here there's a camera up here. So does this have this is a front-facing camera on this vehicle?
Well, we have different levels of our ADAS, or automated driving assistance systems, if you will.
Yes.
And for the what we call Dream Drive Pro, which is the top line, you've got myriad cameras, you've got long-range radar, short-range radar, LiDAR, all these things to enhance safety from an active driving standpoint.
And those features would be available on the Air as well?
Yes, indeed.
Packages.
Yes, we pioneered a lot of that stuff on the Lucid Air. And what's great about vehicles with this technology, and we've seen this already with our experience with the Lucid Air, which has been on the road for about 3 years now, is once the hardware's in place, we have really robust over-the-air update capabilities. So we can enhance and add features all the way along.
Right.
So the car is constantly evolving. You know, when we launched Lucid Air Sedan, you know, we didn't have certain features like Apple CarPlay, for example, which a lot of folks rely on.
Yeah.
Or music apps that people like Spotify, for example. So we could add those. but everybody got them.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter if you bought your Lucid Air 2 weeks ago or 2 years ago, you're getting all of these enhancements and updates. And the same sort of thing will happen with the Gravity as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Well,
So it's constantly getting better.
Yeah, so let's talk about the rear of the vehicle here.
Yes.
You had mentioned the back doors opening 90 degrees.
Yeah, both for the Lucid Air sedan and Lucid Gravity, the rear doors open to 90 degrees, which makes getting inside the vehicle that so much easier. And whether you're loading kids into something like a Gravity, which a lot of folks will do, obviously, or trying to get into the third row, the fact that you can open the door so that wide will make a really big difference in terms of access.
So accessing the third row is going to be like a fold and tumble type of thing for the seat?
Yes, yes, exactly right. The seats will rock and tilt forward.
Got it.
What's great is when you come around back, you'll see that our third row, we've got this cover in place right now, but the way the third row seats are designed is they actually rock back and down, so they store.
Oh wow!
Under
Okay,
here.
so there's a storage area here as well.
So, right,
when they're up.
So when the seats are up, you have all this extra storage.
Excellent.
Again, thanks to the small capacity size of the power unit. And then, of course, when they're down, and you can see here, we have one side of the second row seat folded.
Yes, I see
you
that.
get a completely flat load floor.
Okay, all the way through.
Which for an SUV to be really truly at its optimum as a utility vehicle, you want that flat load floor.
Yeah, you got to be able to do the Home Depot run.
Absolutely, and you've got, and with everything folded, you have, for the size of vehicle, it's pretty impressive actually. You've got about 120 cubic feet or a little short of 3,400 liters of interior storage capacity.
Wow. And here's that load floor height you were mentioning. It's very easy
low,
to get into.
And unlike the Lucid Air sedan, which rides on a coil spring suspension, the Gravity will have an air spring suspension, which will allow us to have 3 different ride heights.
So adjustability
right.
there.
So we can lower this for making it even easier for loading things into the vehicle for folks, and of course raising it when you're trying to do some off-roading.
Yeah.
Makes it easier from that perspective as well.
And will there be a tow package, I'm assuming?
And there will be a tow
coming down the
package. Yes, there will be a tow package available. And I believe the Gravity is rated to tow about 6,000 pounds.
Wow.
So that's impressive. Yeah, I mean, it
for sure.
It is, everything that made the Lucid Air sedan a great sedan. We're focused on making this the best possible SUV. Towing, a decent towing capacity, of course, is core to that if it's a proper SUV. So
Absolutely.
It's a big part of it, yeah.
Wow, that's the 6,000 pounds. That's wild.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think for a vehicle that's this sporty. I mean, I was mentioning to you off camera, like these things you see videos of them ripping around the track.
Yes.
The performance is just unreal.
The performance is
for the sake of the utility and the range, like you mentioned.
Well, because there's a lot of different approaches to SUVs, right? Everything from Jeeps to Suburbans to the Urus, right?
Right.
And they're all great in their own individual way, but each of those present some sort of compromise, right?
Okay.
So this is a vehicle designed to minimize the amount of compromise. So you can do some light off-roading. I mean, this is not a rock crawler. You're not going to do the Rubicon in a vehicle like this.
Yeah.
Understood. But still, to do some of that. But you want a car that's going to ride well, and our chassis engineers are brilliant, and of course they want the car to be fun. So if your jam is to get into the canyon roads and get into some twisties, then Lucid Gravity, much like the Lucid Air, it's got some game.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as far as features, if we just go up front here, so as far as features like the screen displays and that sort of thing is going to be quite similar to the Air, I notice, on the top screen.
It is and it isn't.
But the lower screen seems a little different. Can you talk to that a little bit?
But even the upper screen is different.
Oh, really? Okay,
right.
how so?
And it's just showing how things have evolved and technology has evolved and advanced, and we're trying to keep up with that and make these things as good as they can possibly be. So it's still a 34-inch curved screen.
Okay.
The pilot panel.
That's that kind of top one there.
The glass cockpit display, rather. But in this case, it's an OLED screen, and where the the Air, one piece of glass, but it's actually, when you look closely, 3 distinct screens.
Oh, okay.
Middle, left, and right.
Right.
This is all one screen. So it allows us to then do things like, for example, engaging our sanctuary mode or doing things like that, where when the car is parked, we can take over the entire screen to give you an immersive experience.
Right.
So different from that perspective. Yes, we did raise the lower screen, the pilot panel, again, because of the taller nature of the SUV.
Yes.
It would have required people to reach far too low, and which then would, of course, require you to take your eyes off the road
Yes.
for far too long to be safe. So we raised it up to make it easier to get at, so that folks can easily get to that panel and that screen. The other thing we did, though, you'll notice that unlike the Lucid Air sedan, where we've got those roller switches on either side of the horn button, the Gravity will use these capacitive switches.
Oh, I see that. They're like a touchpad type of thing.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And if you're at all familiar with
That's like
an
right here
Apple,
on
an
the
Apple
steering
TV remote,
Yes.
they function very much in that same way. So you can flick through screens, menus, even with the upper screen. It is a touch screen, but you can, if you prefer.
Wait, the upper screen is a touch screen?
The upper screen is also a touch screen, much as it is in the Lucid Air.
Oh, that's
but
cool.
With these capacitive switches, if you prefer, you can just, with your thumb, flip through screens, flip through menus, and when you want to engage something, just click on it.
Beautiful.
And do it that way.
Yeah.
So really trying to enhance that experience. The other thing you'll notice is different about Gravity to Air is with the vehicle being taller and raising the screen because of the taller nature of the vehicle itself. That created a bit of a dilemma for our designers because that meant that a traditional round-rimmed steering wheel blocked the view of the screen, and right where the speedometer is, the speed display.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Yeah.
So they came up with this different shape. Designers refer, I love this term. Designers refer to it as a squircle.
Squircle. The square circle.
The square circle. Exactly right. I love it. But what it means is when you're sitting in the vehicle, and you may have experienced this, sitting in the vehicle today, you have a clear view then over the steering wheel to the screen unobstructed.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I like how they've still, similarly to the Air, where they kind of hide the vents where the dash materials meet. You've got the wood with the Alcantara there.
Yes,
it's nicely done.
But notice that they are vents that have switches that allow you to redirect the air, open and close them
manual
physically.
adjustment.
Now you're not having to go into a screen to do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It's just as you've got buttons on that middle panel for changing temperature, changing fan speed, adjusting radio volume.
Yeah.
The stuff that you're going to utilize most of the time while you're driving to make it easy, and you don't have to take your eyes off the road.
Right.
It's intuitive, all that.
Yeah, it gives you like a nice blend of kind of the tech, but with the tactile buttons as
Yes.
well. Now I noticed the lower screen is kind of on an angle there,
Yeah.
and so I'm guessing it's not power like the other screen.
It is not powered. You're right. That one is fixed.
So that's the retracting screen is exclusive to the
the Lucid Air.
Got
it's
it.
fixed, and we turned it landscape versus portrait.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Just to give it a wider palette to work from,
Now,
both for the driver and the passenger.
Is Gravity a wider vehicle than the Air?
A little.
Similar.
It is.
Close,
it is.
but,
It's a common misperception. This shows you how dedicated our engineering team is, and our design teams. Common misperception is that the Gravity rides on a modified platform of the Lucid Air.
Okay.
Not true.
No.
That was the assumption in the initial phases of Gravity development. But what they found was doing that compromised the potential of Gravity as an SUV.
Okay.
So they scrapped that idea entirely.
Wow.
And developed an entirely new platform.
Well, I think owners will benefit from that.
We minimize the amount of compromise.
Yeah.
Now,
Interesting.
one last major change between Lucid Gravity and Lucid Air has to do with charging. It's been a lot of talk about people using the NACS or NAC style charging port, which anybody who has a Tesla is very familiar with.
Yeah.
We said we would do that too, and so to gain access to the Tesla supercharger network.
Of course, yeah.
So Gravity will be our first vehicle to do that. Now what that means is this early show car shows you a charging port on the left front fender.
Right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Production versions of this vehicle will actually have the charging port back here.
Oh, really?
And
Okay,
it
so
will
it's going to be on the back quarter.
Because that's the most accessible for superchargers because of the nature of the length of their cables. So back here, a NACS port, so it allows you, and we've said in the US, and we'll be able to do this soon in Canada, access to the Tesla supercharger network.
Okay, excellent. And
Now,
Air will be able to use it too with an adapter and eventually?
Well, eventually.
Okay.
But but our engineers went even one further.
Okay.
Because Lucid Air also is noted for not only long range but fast charging.
Correct. Yeah.
And on high speed DC fast chargers like Electrify Canada or Electrify America, 350 kilowatt level 3 charger, the cars will charge incredibly quickly.
Wow. Okay.
Gravity has the same sort of capability, but our challenge was this. Most Tesla superchargers were designed for a 400 volt architecture, whereas a Grand Touring version of this or Lucid Air operates at north of 900.
Wow.
So if you were to plug in, if you did nothing, and you designed the car to do nothing more than plug into a supercharger, you'd be charging at a rate much lower than the vehicle itself is capable of.
Okay.
Not an ideal customer experience. So
Right.
what our engineers did was develop proprietary technology that allowed them to utilize the rear motor when you're plugged into a supercharger to kick the voltage up internally.
Really?
So that the vehicle will actually charge faster than the charger initially on its own would be capable of charging the Gravity.
What?
To shorten that charge time
Yeah.
to enhance the customer experience. But
That's
again,
incredible.
most manufacturers wouldn't take the time to do that. That
Yeah.
shows just how closely our engineers pay attention to those kinds of details with an eye towards enhancing the customer experience.
That I did not know. So it uses the rear drive unit
Yep.
to bump the voltage.
Yeah.
So it's like it's almost like it's simulating getting that big
Yeah,
voltage in a way.
I mean, effective. I can't give
Yes.
you a lot of detail, and like I said, this is very much
that's
proprietary
incredible.
technology, but
Yeah.
but
Amazing.
designed to really make the vehicle give you the best experience from all perspectives that you can get.
That's fantastic. And I can tell you, like, I mean, as a dad, like go on family road trips and that sort of thing. I mean, yeah, your vehicle experience is important, right? Especially when you got hungry kids in the back and you're just stuck at the charger. You just want to get going.
Oh, well, that reminds me
That type of thing.
of another thing. A lot of people look at these vehicles and you'll see that there's no rear screens. Well, why aren't you designing for rear screens? You've got kids. Well, your kids probably have a bunch of stuff. They either have iPads or iPhones or whatever with a lot of stuff loaded on it. So instead of doing rear screens, what we did was we developed this really slick, robust rear table that folds up with slots. And we can show you.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Where's our man? We can show you these tables.
Okay.
So that it's basically BY.
So we got the rear tables. We can take a look
BYO
at. Thank you so
BYOD.
much.
Bring your own device.
Okay, let's check it out here.
And designed so that it's robust enough that if you want to park a laptop
Oh
on
my
there,
gosh,
if you
that's
want,
crazy.
And like I said, you've got the slots where if you want to slot a tablet or a phone or whatever.
This is like a first-class aircraft.
Right.
Fantastic.
And you're not saddled with outdated technology, right? Because most of the, let's face it, any rear screen in a 4 or 5 year old car
this is
probably way out of date.
That's pretty robust too, and it's
Exactly,
got a
like I
little,
said, you can
little
put it-
slot in there. You can
get-
drop your device right there, stand it up,
or a laptop or whatever. Yeah.
iPad, phone, whatever.
There's charging capability back there for whatever the device may be.
Oh, that's cool. I have to say that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that was there.
Yeah.
And this is not the first time I've seen this car either. You got me.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about kids, right?
Yes.
And so it's perfect.
That is very, very cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, people are gonna love this vehicle.
I think.
Like
Thank you. It checks a lot to think. I believe for a lot of folks.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of storage.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff. Ergonomics for the kids. You got.
Yep.
Got some power for dad.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna do. Very, very well. So let me ask you before we finish up
Yes.
here, Dave. I got to ask you, what is your favorite feature of the Gravity?
Oh gosh.
I'm gonna get you now.
It's not a feature.
Okay.
It's an experience, and the same is true for the Lucid Air. It's a really engaging car to drive.
Okay.
And I live where I live compared to where our offices are typically in California. I'm about 350 miles, so 550 or 60 kilometers away.
Yeah.
That's like about a 6 hour drive. You can easily spend 6-7 hours in this car. It's really comfortable, but you get this thing on whether it's a Gravity or an Air, but you get it on a twisty road, and it's got some game.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a bit of fun with it, you can have fun with it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you can get that spirited drive in.
They are, in my estimation, we get so focused on the EV aspect of it, but at their core, the Lucid Air sedan or the Lucid Gravity SUV, they're just really good vehicles.
Yeah.
They're really good driving vehicles,
Yeah.
period. That happen to be really great electric vehicles too.
Yeah, and they're beautiful.
Yes.
It's a great space to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for all your wisdom and insights. I
Thank
learned
you.
something. I hope you guys learned something.
Excellent.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for the
much,
time.
Dave.
Appreciate it.
Guys, we'll see you in the next video.